Hello, and how bona to vada, you dolly old eeks. What am I rambling about? Well, today I want to palare about something called Bona Vacantia, which you may have seen in the news, because there was that story about how the king has received 40 plus million pounds of money from people who just like messed up wills or not left wills. So what is Bona Vacantia? Literally means ownerless property. And how can that arise? Well, say for instance, you don't make a will and you shuffle off this mortal coil. Something called the intestacy rules apply, which is sort of first port of call is your spouse, then your kids, then your grandkids. But say for instance, you don't have anybody like that, or, and this is one that catches people out, you are just living with somebody, but you're not married. Intestacy doesn't apply to them, so you sort of like disappear. Who gets your house and all your assets if it's not in your partner's name already? It goes to the Crown. Similarly, you leave a will, leaving your property to identified people, but they cannot be found. They're either shuffled off themselves or nobody knows where they are. Again, that's Bona Vacantia, so that goes to the Crown. Also companies, when companies are wound up or become insolvent, sometimes they actually still do have some assets and there are no creditors who want them. So that goes to the Crown. Now when I say the Crown, in England and Wales, it goes to the Treasury. But in the Duchies of Cornwall and Lancaster, or the Palatine of Lancaster as it's actually called, it goes to the relevant dukes, which down here is Prince William, and in Lancaster it is actually the King, because he's also the Duke of Lancaster apparently. Supposedly they're supposed to use the money for charitable purposes, but there's been some debate as to whether they actually do. I mean, they're under no obligation to, it's their money as far as the law is concerned. Also, if you have like a business has a property, I mean sometimes a business it's not worth maintaining the property. So it's something called escheat, which is Norman French for to return. And apparently it is escheat. I asked about this as to whether it was escheat or esciat. And so that property goes off to, that's Bona Vacantia, and it's returned to the government. Because of course, technically speaking, the Crown own all the land in this country. You might be a freeholder or have a fee simple absolute in perpetuity, or whatever they're called. But technically, even though that's the highest form of land ownership, you have that land, at the behest of the Crown, which is why compulsory purchase orders work. Because they say we want our property back, and here's a little sum in compensation. Similarly, if you sort of turn up, from your 12 years in the Amazon and find out that Uncle George left you his fortune, you can go along and say, "I've turned up now. Can I have all my money?" I mean, the property might have gone, it might have been liquidated or sold, but theoretically they are supposed to honour the bequest. Similarly, sometimes you might want to restore a company to the register for whatever reasons. Then you need a Bona Vacantia waiver from... In England and Wales generally, you just get it from the Treasury and it's about 80 quid. But down here you have to go to the lovely people at Farrer & Co, who are the Crown solicitors. And they are nice people, but they charge about 250 quid or 300 quid now, I think. Because technically the company is theirs. I mean, they obviously don't want it, but they do charge you a little fee for writing you a letter saying they don't want it. But yeah, that's how money ends up, basically, in the hands of the Crown. So it wasn't really a secret at all. I mean, this is well known, especially to corporate lawyers. But be careful, because that one about not leaving a will does catch a lot of people out. Also with companies, I had one where it was a big row with the Duchy because the company had gone insolvent, and there was a debate as to who owned a Land Rover. And the director was saying, "That's my personal car, that's my car." But because he'd put a little label, he put his logo on the side, painter and decorator, they said, "No, that's a company asset and we're having it," even though it's probably only worth about 200, 500 quid or something. So yeah, this can be a controversial subject. But anyway, as always, hope you found that vaguely interesting and vaguely useful. I am at St Alan Church today, which is very, very lovely. Because it's quite good, because there's lots of old like Celtic crosses. But I think at least that one is probably a repurposed Neolithic or Bronze Age standing stone. But it is a lovely... It is a lovely spot, this. But yeah, and all these stuff at the beginning, that was Polari. Because you may remember, if anybody remembers Round the Horn and Julian and Sandy, where everything was Bona. So I just thought it seemed appropriate. But there you go. See you next time.